Hello everybody, hope you're doing well and welcome to a kind of a video about the Thronebreaker difficulty. Now I'm going to break this into several segments. We're going to be talking first about the extent of issue when it comes to having an extra piece of content in game. I sort of alluded to this in yesterday's video about this one and how this kind of like goes to burnout, but there is a cost which I don't know if I properly explained in a video, but there's always a round circle of investment, especially if you're a non-spending player, Marvel Contest of Champions, from energy spend, from free energy spend, to content investment in battlegrounds and a new event quest having more of a time slump for you, and how that impacts a non-spending player to further grinding units. In a roundabout way, that's kind of like how I explain that. Then we'll look at my own thoughts on like the health pool side of things, how I found it, and also kind of like the impact, because it's not all going to suit everybody and there's going to be problems. So it's going to be a little bit of we're going to digest into this, dive into this, and break things down a little bit. So let's begin. Let's begin with like burnout, energy costs, more content to do, and the kind of the worth the round circle kind of things. Okay, so at the moment in game, you have two options for energy spending. It's either battlegrounds or it's in the kind of event quest or story mode, or at some other places as well. But predominantly, those are the things that, you know, event quests are monthly recurring things. It means to get regular things, regular kind of rewards and stuff like that. And battlegrounds, again, same principle. Yes, you have things called elder marks, but there does come a point where you'll run out of elder marks. And what do you use? That's right, you will use either units or you'll use energy. Now, it will be units to grab more elder marks, but there is I think there's a limit, I think, to that one. I can't remember. In any case, energy is something that how you invest that is going to be very important. And this is the bit of an issue with this. It's great to add new difficulties, but they need to be rewarded for the extent of investment, the same way that you would with battlegrounds. And if you're investing it but not making any gains, or not feeling you're making any gains, then you still have to question as to, like, you know, your time investment into this particular stuff. There's a further impact to this when it comes to, I think, free-to-play players and non-spending in general. So, and the issue that I'm kind of finding is that it's great, as I said, to add in a new difficulty, but then I have to prioritize, like, what am I doing this month? Am I going to be auto-fighting contender proven in order to grab units to then reinvest back into it? And to give you a real idea of like what I do with these particular difficulties proven whatever, is that I will go and auto-fight the chapter 1 and chapter 2 because of the energy investment versus the units I get back from it. The issue that as soon as you've got more paths, when you go into things like the final chapter, chapter 3, you are starting to lose energy more rapidly versus the units you take home at the end of it. And a lot of the time I will do this in order to, like, start of the month. If I've, like, I'm recording, editing a video, I might auto fight through things like, you know, chapter 1, well, mainly chapter 1 in, say, the what was normal difficulty, heroic, master, and uncollected, if it works well to auto fight through it. Now, that's not everybody will be in the same boat as me, but that's the thing, isn't it? You have to kind of look at those that energy and go, like, am I investing this the correct way possible? That's even for this video, whilst I'm recording this, I'm very mindful that I got 63 energy and I need to finish this video recording because I need to use that energy to invest into doing either Thronebreaker difficulty or do, as I said, the auto fight through the lower to get units to then invest into energy refills to then put into my content. Now you might be saying, well, reinvest back into it, your units into energy refills. But this is where the problem is, I think, for me. It's like the extent of, like, because I don't decide to spend in MCOC, and I'm not going to continue spending in MCOC at the moment. This is the kind of the point of, well, these units that I'm getting at the moment are important to me because it's going to be a case of a process. As I've said, like, I'm going to take a little bit of a break away from excessively grinding out units or farming units as much this month, but I kind of feel like I'm going to be dragged in at the weekend to do, like, a lot more of unit farming because I'll need to reinvest more into my grind. To give you an idea, like, if, and theoretically, I haven't done any of the stats, totals or whatever, if for whatever reason I have to do another difficulty of content, so I have to 100% what is it? Cavalier and Thronebreaker, those two. That's 300 energy a time. So I would need to kind of use energy refills. People might say, you don't have to use energy refills, just wait until the end of the month. Well, it's content that needs to be done first and foremost, and you know, it's doing content on it, like YouTube wise, means like, you know, I've got to get through it. I've got to like come up with some ideas, guides, options, champions to take on this particular stuff. It's part and parcel. So it's kind of like sadly, it's a double-edged sword. But then looking at it from another perspective, like if you were waiting the entirety of the month, and again, some crazy sums would have to be done to go, okay, at what point could you do Thronebreaker Cavalier difficulty uncollected for free with free energy? Like that would have to be a kind of a total game. Like, would that be the last week of the month that you would be able to theoretically 100% of those key difficulties to get the stuff that you need? But again, as I said, those are kind of like sums that, you know, we just have to kind of like take a bit of time to do that. But then, as I said, like the problem with that is that it's not just about those particular difficulties, it's about doing battlegrounds as well once you've run out of Elder Marks. And that energy investment is going to be another kind of key part of it, especially because that's, is it 15 energy? Yeah, it's 15 energy per match, which is not ideal if you're using your free energy, or at the same time you're like, okay, well, what do I prioritize here? Do I prioritize Thronebreaker Cavalier difficulty first with my energy? Then when I'm out of Elder Marks, wait until I've topped up and do one a day, none a day in Battlegrounds? And also I think the same could be said for like having a side quest that has energy consumption as well. It now becomes a point where you have to make very key decisions about what you want to go and take on. When, like, what extent of difficulty do you grind? Do you buy more energy refills? Is that going to be too much of a cost of a units to you, especially if you're non-spending? You have to kind of like make a very kind of key decision. And I don't know if Kabam was saying like, look, you know, just do the difficulties that rewards you the most based on where you are at progression level. Which is not completely ideal, especially if you want to get, as I said, like units from lower difficulties. It's even more so annoying because then there's not units rewarded back from the likes of Thronebreaker difficulty and Cavalier difficulty, which means you can't reinvest back into your grind, especially being, you know, non-spending players, free-to-play players. Next up, I just want to briefly touch on the reward side of things and how the difficulty is rewarded based on the difficulty. I think it's sort of there. The thing is, right, let's be brutally honest. I don't know if Kabam know how to properly pitch content versus rewards. This is why we had the same problem when it came to the likes of variants, and why we don't see variants anymore, because Kabam don't know how to pitch where they're kind of going with difficulty of content with where the player base is at. Because there was a time when we started seeing rank 4 6-star materials, I think it was rank 4 6-star materials, at a point where we had the last variant, which was Deadapalooza, and we were all kind of looking at it going like, well, this isn't really in keeping with what the meta is. And there was a bit of a kind of like, well, we were like, well, we don't really need this now because X, Y, or Z kind of like resources were being kind of put in. So I don't think Command know how to pitch the particular content with rewards, because the same thing would be said with like the difficulty side of things and the progression side of things. I feel that this would have been, Thronebreaker difficulty would have been better last year than it would be this year. And that's the thing. Maybe down the line, Kabam plan to put in more difficulty progressions. Like, we'll get a new progression titleage and, you know, it will be Paragon difficulty, for example. Like, we'll have an, I don't know, like an Elder progression title and a Paragon difficulty. Who really knows? But then there needs to be that kind of point of, where is everything pitched at the moment? How is this pitched? And rewarding against that particular pitch of where players are in the game. Are Thronebreakers really at a point where they want 5-star shards? Are they looking to push their Thronebreaker mark, their Paragon mark with the particular game? You just don't know, and that's the thing. I don't want to guess where Kabam are at with this stuff, but I've seen very mixed. Like even on like a post I put up, that people were kind of happy where it was, but then others were not. I think it's mainly pitched toward like it's people are positively kind of like looked at it, but I kind of think that it's at a point of going, well, there are some difficult elements to the particular quest, especially if you make a mistake, it costs you, and if you make a mistake with a 5-star. It will cost you. And not saying that wasn't in Cavalier difficulty, but they nerfed Cavalier difficulty. It's a very weird situation as to like how the content is is pitched, especially when it comes to Thronebreaker and stuff like that. And just a quick thing for me, I just wanted to kind of like look at health pool side of things and how they scale. I must admit, like, there will be some very early to Thronebreaker players trying to access Thronebreaker to kind of think that they're making like the next bit of gains, and kind of looking at things of going to, unless they have the champions, and that's the biggest thing as well. A lot of us in the community assume other players, not capabilities, but roster size. One thing that I have is like I have a lot of champions over the 5-star spectrum, so it's a case of like, if I don't have the 6-star version of a champion, I've more than likely got a 565 version of the champion, which I can just kind of use instead. It's not where I'm personally at in the game. I'm all about 6 stars, but a lot of the time I don't have the 6-star version, so I have to rely on the 565s. So taking on these particular health pools, which, believe it or not, is quite stonky, especially if you look at Quest 1 of Thronebreaker Difficulty having a 264k health pool versus Cav, which has 130k hit pool in the same one, with like a rise of about 130k to that. It can feel a little bit stocky. By the way, 565s do Thronebreaker. I'm not kind of like going like, oh, you can't do, you should be able to still do it, right? No, that's not the point. It's the availability of champions to go against the meta of the tags to then do the particular content, which can seem a bit, as I said, stonking. If you're not raising the crossfights, if you're not getting the Fury passives, if you're not getting the kind of boosts from those particular nodes and the buffs that come from it, then you might feel a little bit kind of like cheated out and annoyed from this particular interaction. Because as I said, like, you know, there's people that experience this different to different people. Like, I've had a few kind of like meh interactions, but I've had some really good interactions. So the good interactions I'll throw up on screen right now. A lot of the time I'm finding that is bad AI and bad inputs playing a lot of the issues. Now, I don't know, like, I'm not going to go and spend another, like 2 years ago in 2021, I bought a new iPad, which is the one that I use in videos and stuff. And that one I bought on an installment plan and finally paid that off in 2022. Now, it's 2023. So is it a case that that iPad that was 2 years old is starting to kind of like show its wear and tear? And that may be a case, but at the same time, it could be other factors. It could be a case I messed up, which, you know, I'm quite happy to say, like, look, I messed up. But then there's other times where it's like, look, if other players are putting on forums and having an experience where they're having things where dropped inputs are there, AI is not coded to a point where the profile is made by Kabam in a fair manner, then that's definitely something that Kabam need to look into. A lot of times they say, oh, we should look into that, and they never really do. So that's another thing as well. It's kind of, you know, you'd like to know that the game is in capable hands. I don't know, because it's a lack of staff at the moment, based on, you know, them letting certain ones go and not kind of working in other areas, but we'll have to see. But the final thing I want to say about this particular content is it's okay, it's cool. Like, I had a relatively good time in some places, but I think that's MCOC in a nutshell. You can have good experiences in some fights, and in others are just complete ass. And that's just the thing. You take the rough with the smooth with it. So yeah, I just want to like make my kind of final points on the particular content, in that I like it. It's okay. Is the rewards for the meta for like Paragon there? It feels to me like this should have been out last year, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that when it comes to this. And maybe back then people might have gone like, oh, this is too difficult. But here's the thing, last year we still had rank 4 6 stars. People were still creating rosters. So as well, looking at this as well from a point of, my issue with this is energy consumption and having to do more content in game, or having more to do. Like, it's great, by the way, to have more to do, but we haven't like had a look at a month where we've had a new story mode. So imagine if it's Act 8.2, Battlegrounds on at the same time, EOP, and Thronebreaker Difficulty. That is going to happen. That is going to happen this month, right? All those 4 things are going to come in line together. We'll have EOP with maybe a time sensitive. We've then got to do Battlegrounds. We've then got Thronebreaker Difficulty when it comes to, say, February. And yeah, Act 8.2. Like, and maybe I'm wrong, but maybe there might be a time where you have 4 pieces of content, which are kind of like, well, again, you could take your time. But it's just, again, what we're doing is we're constantly following the rat race. If there's rank 5 6 star materials in certain pieces of content, you're going to go and do them because you need them. The same way as, you know, for me, you're looking at it going like, well, I'm not going to have any option to get any rank 4 6 star materials until Act 8.2, maybe I can buy in a battleground store, possibly. I don't want to because I've planned to get other stuff in there. Maybe I've got to wait, yeah, Act 8.2 or something else. So my only opportunity at the moment to get rank 469 materials would probably be to do Thronebreaker Difficulty, because the Cavalier difficulty objective is not there anymore. So that's the problem. A lot of time we follow the meta when it comes to what rewards we get and also how eager we are to get it. And I'm sure Caban would say, well, you don't have to get it now. True, but then I guess I've got to spend energy in the right places in order to access stuff at a slower pace. But I also need it for battlegrounds. So that's really my problem, really, is kind of the energy side of things. I can deal with the difficulty. Yeah, okay, if, mistakes happen, mistakes happen. If I have a good run, I have a good run. That's not going to be for everybody. That'll be some issues for those that are, say, making that Thronebreaker jump, like very early Thronebreaker may look at this and go like, do you know what, this is annoying. This is a bit too much of a step up, especially go into some of the health pools and interaction. But this is the thing, there's different strokes for different folks. People's experience of the game is going to be very different to you and to me. So yeah, what's everyone else's kind of like thoughts on this at the moment? As I said, very mixed when it comes to this and how players interact with this particular content. But Cavalier looks like it's been nerfed quite a bit, which is weird. But in any case, thoughts in the comment section. That's been the video. That's been my thoughts on Thronebreaker as I've seen it. And yeah, check out some other content located on screen right now. And I'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye.